like we're going to get started recording here soon. Looks like folks are filtering in, so come on in, get settled. I guess you all probably know we have Jesse Barnum this evening, which is very exciting. We're all looking forward to hearing what he's got to say about this. So kind of an exciting evening. You don't have to listen to me or Chris talk for a change, so that'll be good. Yeah, so we're really looking forward to hearing from Jesse. So Jesse, thanks for coming on. And
yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, that's going to be great. Let's see. I'm scanning the list. Looks like everybody's. I got a couple new names out there. Typically, we do. We'll go through and do a little round robin style. And since we can't see each other, oh, sorry. One of my kids just seemed to smash his head on something outside. I'm sorry. I'm distracted. I think he's going to be okay, though. Yeah, our usual style is pretty informal, and we like to go around and just sort of, introduce ourselves to everyone. But certainly, we want to give Jesse a chance to have as much time as he needs for his presentation. So I think we'll forgo the usual chatty chat stuff.
My presentation is actually pretty short, so I think we're going to have plenty of time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool, Jesse. Thanks. And then if you're confident, then we usually, don't spend more than a few minutes on it. But certainly we usually like to hear from everybody, see what's been going on, what are you working on that's cool, and if you're interested, just jump in here, or I can run down the list if you want. Don't everybody jump in at once.
All right,
Eric.
I've unmuted first, so I'll go.
Hey, that's Karen, right?
Yep, Karen Stella. I'm from New York, which is obvious from the list. What's exciting now is I finally got my last FileMaker 11 client migrated. Yay! There you go.
Right. Congratulations. Yeah.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
Hi, Karen.
2 years of planning to get it done.
That's good. Hi, everyone. I'm Ronnie Rios, consulting engineer at FileMaker. And to me, the most exciting thing I'm doing right now is getting ready for DevCon. So I don't know if you guys heard, there's this conference we do every year at FileMaker.
All right, that's cool.
Who else is going to DevCon? Been asking that periodically for a while, and it starts getting real quiet, Ronnie. I don't know why. I'm missing.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Who's going to DevCon?
I'm going to DevCon. Do you need any other reason?
I'm going.
You are, Karen?
Yep.
Oh, great. I'm not going to make it this year. I really wanted to, but I'm not going to make it this year. And a couple times in the past, I've asked in this group who's going, and it just gets really, really quiet. Like this looks like it's going to be a really good one. I'm disappointed I can't make it, but
I'm excited about having it in Phoenix again. I always really liked, this is Jesse, I always really liked Phoenix as a venue. It was much more, it was just everything was close together, and you didn't have to wander around looking where stuff was, and I always liked that.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about the content. I think this is quite honestly one of the most solid content I've seen in a long time for DevCon. I'm excited. I'll be there even in the training day on Monday. I think this is the lineup is just really, really amazing. I've seen going down the list is just really solid. So sorry you're missing it.
Hey there, everyone. This is Eric Miller over at the DocuWorks. I will be going to DevCon. Looking forward to it. That's for sure. We've been throwing all of our resources at a full WebDirect redesign of our vertical market solution. We're very excited about it, and we've been playing around with the Ionic platform as well in order to get us on the Android Google Play store. I know because we do have clients that unfortunately they use Androids and we can't get them off that. But yeah.
All right. Well, I have a bit of news. This is Jason Sanders here. Until very recently of Extensitech. So Chris and I have, well, I guess we've broken up. I don't know how else to say that, but not in a bad way. We're still buddies. We still hang out. Chris's thumb is still sore from all the bowling that we do regularly. So, but we are. I have this last couple of months been working quite a lot on starting a new consultancy, and I just got word today from the FBA folks that I have been accepted as an FBA member. So,
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, my new company's called Go Live Solutions, and it's it's pretty much business as usual. So just more or less hanging out a shingle to do the same stuff. But that was a big milestone there, getting my name on the FBA list. So excited about that to get that going.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
So I think I was looking down through here. A lot of the new names have @360works after their on their
I think
emails. So
I think before I yelled at Joe, I think there's a room full of people at 360. I'm at home right now because our internet connection was so bad today.
oh, yeah.
I was worried that it was going to stink for the webinar. So ironically, I'm coming home to have good internet. So I think there's a fair number of people at 360works watching this too, because this is new to a lot of them as well. They've seen me demo it once, but yeah, they all need to learn about this too.
I thought we all went home for FMPUG so we could pour a good stiff drink and not have our coworkers catch us. I misunderstood. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Jesse doesn't know. They're probably drinking at the office now as well.
Yeah, right?
You know what?
Wild
It's after
party.
6 o'clock. They can drink anything that they want.
Right? All right. Well, let's see. I guess that is exciting. Good to get some more guys in the room here. I've been I think a thorn in the side of 360works for the last couple of weeks. I've had this really difficult super container deployment that's just been going haywire, and so Jesse's guys have been helping me out a ton with that. So thanks, Jesse, for that time. I don't see any of them on the list here yet, but
Okay.
they're probably tired from
I'm
all
guessing
that,
Ryan
but,
was involved in that. So
yeah, poor Ryan. He got a flog from a server I got working on here. So, but anyway, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks
I
all
have
for you.
I have a shout out for Sterling too. He came through for me on. I needed some groovy code for Scriptmaster.
Oh, that's awesome. That's saying a lot because Sterling's too busy to help me with anything. So I'm glad.
Oh no, now I'm gonna get him in trouble.
Right under the.
He came on time, under budget, helped me figure out the stupid mistakes I was making.
Awesome.
You know,
I'm glad that worked
really
out.
awesome. And he also got to demonstrate. I hope you're going to say something about this tonight, Jesse. But he got to demonstrate how your new plugins will manage Java by themselves.
Yeah. So.
Which, oh my God, I did not realize that, and I can't wait to upgrade everybody because I hate managing Java. So,
I wasn't planning on talking about that, but I will make sure to quickly mention
you've got to at least mention that because that's stellar. I mean, if you've ever, I don't know if anybody else in the room has, done a lot of 360works plugins. They're great, but you don't want to have the wrong version of Java, or it keeps reminding you that you're in the wrong version. And I'm not very Java proficient, like to the point that I can't figure out what freaking version I have, let alone get it on the right version or install it, figure out what I need to uninstall and all that. And you just don't have to anymore. 360works.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and
do it on their own. It's beautiful.
Awesome. I'll use that as a segue to kind of just launch in. So yeah, we basically literally for the last year and a half, we've been working on like a complete rewrite to how our plugins function. And so we shipped those the same day that FileMaker 16 came out with a bunch of new features that are specific to FileMaker 16, like we now support. You can use plugin functions as script steps, which is really cool. It's just much more intuitive than the old weird way where you would need to set a variable. Like if you want to run a credit card charge, for instance, it's just a lot more straightforward to have a script step that says process payment than it is to say set variable, and then in the calculation engine you type in CC process payment. So you get these nice graphic interfaces now for interacting with the script steps, and you can get the same kind of like checkboxes and pulled-in menus and specify buttons for our plugins that you would for any FileMaker scripts, which just makes it much more approachable and much more natural, and it feels more like it's part of FileMaker instead of this weird side thing. And also along those lines is the error reporting is now tremendously better because FileMaker really changed the API in 16 to allow plugins to report errors just like a script step would. So now, instead of needing to trap for errors after every single time you call one of the plugin functions, you just call the script step for our plugin function, and if something goes wrong, a little dialog will pop up in FileMaker just like any other script step. You know, just like you would get a dialog saying, you know, can't go to related record because it's not on a related layout. Now you can get a custom 360works message saying something like invalid password for the email server or whatever, and it'll just pop up, and just like a FileMaker script step, you can use the set error capture feature. So if you want to if you don't want the user to see those pop-ups, you can use the built-in FileMaker set error capture on. You can check using the built-in get last error code, just like you would for any other FileMaker script step. Get the error code, and then, you know, deal with that as you would normally deal with it. So it feels a lot more like we're just part of FileMaker now, instead of, you know, this kind of real distinct side of things that we used to be on. And then there's a whole lot of other improvements, but the big one that you mentioned, Chris, is that you no longer need to install Java to use our plugins. It would be false to say we don't use Java anymore, because we do actually still use Java for our plugins. The difference is we just invisibly install our own private copy of Java when you run our plugins for the first time. It won't conflict with any versions of Java you already have installed, and it's not affected by any versions of Java you do or don't have installed. So really, it's irrelevant to us anymore what versions of Java, if any, you do or don't have installed on your computer. And the version of Java that we install is in a private 360works folder that is not going to interfere with any other software on your computer. So it's really totally invisible now. I only even mention it just because I feel, you know, like I don't want to be deceptive and make it sound like we're not using Java, because we are, but you never see it, your users never see it, you don't manage it, your users don't manage it, it just kind of invisibly happens in the background. So that I do think is going to really make, again, it's just going to make it feel more like you're just using FileMaker, and that's really what we're going for. We want our plugins to just feel like there's nothing special about any of it, it just works like FileMaker. So thanks for pointing that out, Chris.
Yeah, I suppose in a year or so, I bet you won't have to mention it at all. But I feel like for those of us who have been trying to get in the right Java version, just letting us know we don't have to worry about that is such a weight off. It's really appreciated. So,
yeah, big
and
deal,
especially
big deal.
automatic upgrades of Java that would break something. It's like, oh, really?
Right. Not an issue anymore.
Right.
Not as far as we're concerned. You know, I mean, it might affect something else, but it's not an issue for 360works plugins anymore.
Yeah, glad to let that be somebody else's problem. So.
Speaking of automatic updates, boy, you're the segue king today. Speaking of automatic updates, let me talk about our new product, 360Deploy. And so before I really get into anything, I just want to stress this is pretty early. It is, I would say it's like 3/4 baked, but it's not fully there yet. And so I don't have any slides yet. I don't really have an impressive demo yet. If I scroll down, you see I've got a bunch of debug stuff still left on my layouts. And so it's not quite ready to put on the store yet, but I'm pretty sure that we'll have it cleaned up. The plan is to have it cleaned up and looking nice for DevCon. Probably won't have it on sale until like sometime in August. So you guys are actually the first people to see it outside of one internal demo that I've done at 360works. So go easy on me if anything falls apart. So without further ado, let me start. Oh, well, before I really get into this, just some kind of housekeeping. Whenever I do a presentation, I really love to get some audience participation and feedback. So feel free to turn your mute off and and just jump in with questions. You can type them, but I may overlook them if I'm going fast. So feel free to just shout stuff out. The demos are going to go pretty quickly. That's kind of the point, is that this is really quick. So the demos really won't take that long. I should have plenty of time for questions, suggestions, anything like that. So please feel free to just jump in whenever you want. So with that out of the way, let me talk a little bit about what the purpose of 360 Deploy is. The purpose is to greatly simplify the process of working with a development version of your databases and a deployment version of the databases. As probably, I'm guessing, everybody has dealt with at some point in time, you have this annoying problem to solve with FileMaker where, oh, that's distracting. I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. My ADD is kicking and I can't do it. I just can't talk while the phone's ringing. Hold on, I'll be right back. All right, the phone has been ejected from the room. So yeah, you've got this problem where historically you want to work on a development copy because it's generally not a good practice in most cases to work on a live production databases that users are connected to. And so you work on a development copy, and then when you're done working on the development copy, historically you've had about 3 choices. Choice number 1, make a log of all the things that you did, and then do the same things on the deployment copy. That's probably the worst option, but it is a common one, especially if you're making minor changes. Choice number 2, use a separation model. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm in the not a fan camp, but I understand why people like it. In my opinion, it creates a whole lot of compromises and workarounds and things that just feel very hacky and kind of violate the spirit of what FileMaker is intended to do, with the main payback being that you've got, hopefully, if you follow the process perfectly, then hopefully you'll wind up with a thing where you can just drop in a replacement interface file and leave your data file in place. And some people are pretty good about doing that, and so they achieve really nice results. But there are a lot of trade-offs to that route.
And then you also can't do that for your data file anyway, right?
Yeah. So if you need to add new fields or have a stored calculation or anything like that, you're winding up having to import into that data file anyway. And I know some people come up with some pretty creative solutions to that. Like, for instance, creating a whole bunch of generically named fields that they don't need to add them. They can just use, field 36 now means this and field 37 means that. And you can get away with using script triggers in a lot of places in your interface file rather than stored calculations. But at some point, you really need to ask yourself if the loss of legibility and readability and simplicity is really offset by the gain from a deployment standpoint. And in my opinion, my personal opinion, I would say no in almost every case. But I don't say my way is the right way, but that's my personal opinion on that. And then the third route.
Hey Jesse, I don't want to. You did say you wanted feedback, but
yeah,
I don't want to interrupt you too much. But one thing I would say about the separation model, because it's something we're exploring. That we haven't used in the past. And actually Eric Miller, who's here, made the case for me better than others.
Okay.
I agree with everything you said about how, just using it as a replace the interface file, it's not all it's cracked up to be, in my opinion. But Eric does a lot of very interesting things because he has the separation model. Things like putting a lot of graphics in the interface file and having it local, having a local interface file and things like that. So I think it's there's an opportunity that you might be converted like I was, but not converted on what you just said. I think everything
Well,
you said makes perfect sense, but there are some interesting things you can do, and performance enhancements you can get out of separation that I didn't realize. Because when I thought it was just for, easy deployment, I was like, well, just about every time I change something in the interface file, I'm always changing something in the data file too. So, that just doesn't make sense to me without it being hacky and like you said. But
and you can actually, I think when we're done with this demo, we should go back and revisit this topic and see if it applies. It may very well apply to that model as well, because you could use this 360 deploy for doing the update of the data file portion of it. And then you can kind of have the best of both. You can use 360 deploy for the data part and just a replacement file for the interface part. And so it might be actually a very nice combination of those two techniques.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it's not mutually exclusive. Great.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, sorry, I wanted to make that point before I lost it. So.
No, it's a good point. Don't be sorry at all.
Okay.
So then the third option, which is the one that I've historically used, is you import all the data from the old file into an empty clone of the new file, and you make sure you match up your field names, and you also need to make sure that your serial numbers are manually adjusted to match the serial numbers in your old file, because they're not going to be the same in the clone that you're importing into, and so you could get duplicate serial numbers or gaps in serial numbers. And it's a tedious process, but it's a very predictable, known process, and it pretty much always works once you kind of get used to doing all the steps and if you don't miss them. So those have been kind of historically the three options. And so 360 deploy is essentially the third option except fully automatic, so that you're getting all the benefits of that very predictable, very reliable process without the danger of messing something up or having the wrong found set or forgetting to change your serial numbers, or just the tedious work involved in doing like a 60 table solution or something. So that's what this is. So I'm going to run through a quick demo here and show you kind of what the process looks like. When I do my real demo, I'm probably going to pick a fairly complex solution. I might use like FM starting point or something with a bunch of tables. As it is, I just use my kind of go-to thing, which is my context starter solution that comes with FileMaker. So I've got this, before I do anything, I just want to show you what I did to this file already to prep for this demo. So one thing that I did is I went into security and I gave the admin account a password. And really you have to do that for anything that you're hosting in FileMaker Server anymore, because FileMaker Server by default won't host non-protected databases. I also went into the privilege sets and I enabled all of these just to be sure, because I didn't want anything to go wrong during the demo. To be honest, I don't actually think I need any of them except for the typical FM app. I'm conflicted. Oh no, I know that you definitely need this one. Allow URLs to perform FileMaker scripts. You know what? I'm going to make myself a note to document exactly what you need, because you may not even need that one. Document which extended. Okay. So I'm going to turn them all on because I want to make sure everything works. And then afterwards, when I put together my documentation, I'll test it with all of them off and see what happens. So I made that change. Another change that I made is in my script. On my startup script here, I commented this part out. If get found count equals 0, new record request. The reason for that is that as we're currently picturing the process, and this is possible that it might change between now and when we ship this, but the current implementation will fail, it will hang if any write operations occur in the startup script. So if we were to try to create a new record, it would hang the process. And the reason for that is because for a variety of reasons, we pause the databases on the server when we open them. And when you have a paused database, if you attempt to write anything to it, you just get the beach ball or the coffee cup or the hourglass or whatever, and it'll just hang there while the database is paused. So it's important for your startup script.
When you say write operations, does that include updates? Like set fields and things like that?
Yep. Set fields, new records, anything that modifies and commits a record. And I haven't actually tested it with global fields yet. I'm pretty sure global variables are probably okay. I don't know for sure. Anyone on the call know whether you can modify a global field while a file's paused on the server? I don't. So that's already on my testing checklist. So that's something I'm going to check.
So you could have your special username for this process just bail
Absolutely.
out of the first window, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You could create an account called 360Deploy or auto deploy or whatever, and yeah, if account name equals auto deploy, then just exit. That would work great.
Okay, good to know.
So yeah, those are the only modifications I've made to this file. And if we look at the actual contents of the file, it's a very straightforward FileMaker database with some stored calculations. It does have a serial number here for the auto thing for the primary key. Next value is 2. But it's a very traditional, simple, flat file database. We have tested this with relational databases, and it works exactly the same with relationships, so that's fine. We have not tested yet unless Junior can tell me whether he's tested this or not. I don't know if we've tested with multi-file solutions, but we anticipate that it should work fine with multi-file solutions. We just haven't gotten actually testing that yet. Junior, like I said, you can feel free to type the answer there if you've gotten to that part of the testing yet. Here's my FileMaker file. Here's my 360Deploy file. Another thing that I did beforehand, I've got, here's an important point to be aware of, and this is another thing that we're working on trying to change before we ship it. I don't want to promise this though. Currently, the way this works is that you need 2 FileMaker servers for this to work. You need a development server and you need a production server. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the development server, we're going to grab an empty clone copy of that file, put it up onto the production server, and then run the import between the 2 databases on the production server. At some point, what I'm hoping to do is make it so that you could just have local copies of the file on your laptop and have a development offline copy that you would use as your development copy. But at the moment, it does require the development files to be on a FileMaker server, not just offline on your laptop. And so I want to show you one more thing that I've done prior to actually starting this, is that there's this very simple installer that you run on both the servers. So my development server is a server that we have called Jupyter, and my production server is on Jessie. And Jessie is actually my laptop, so I'll be treating my laptop as the production server for this demo. If you've installed MirrorSync, then you already know what the installation process is. It's just a Mac or Windows double-clickable installer. You run it on the server and it runs through and it's finished. So, so those steps have already been done. And then you open up this 360Deploy FileMaker database. The first time that you open it, it will automatically install. There is a plugin that's used with this as well. And we automatically install the plugin from a container field in this FileMaker database, so you don't need to manually install the plugin, and as we talked about, you don't need to install Java or anything like that. It'll just work when you first open the database. So the first thing I do is I tell this database, this configuration tool basically, where's my development server, and that's Jupyter. And now I put in my FileMaker server admin account, not the admin password for the database, the admin password for administering FileMaker server. And I can click verify, and that will go and it'll make sure that my password is correct for that. And then I repeat the same process for my production server, which in this case is my laptop, and I verify. And that's working. And so my next step is, I've already done step 1, install that 360Deploy utility on the 2 servers. That was what I did here and here, showing that those are up and running. So step 2 is choose which database I want to deploy. So I've got a bunch of them on Jupyter, but the one I'm looking for is called Contacts 360Deploy. Here it is. And if this is a multi-file solution, which again we have not specifically tested it yet, but you can just click these to toggle them on and off. So I've got one file here, Contacts 360Deploy. I'm done with that. And so that's step 2. Step 3, copy and paste the 360Deploy script folder into one database. So I'm going to copy this. It uses the plugin to automatically put a standard thing on the clipboard. Someone's typing. Ronnie, thank you. For what it's worth, global fields are available while a file is paused. So that's good. That means that if your startup script sets some global fields, then you don't need to do anything special in your startup script. It'll work correctly even when the file is paused. It's only if you are creating, deleting, or editing records that causes a commit to trigger that you would need to change your startup script. So thanks for checking that, Ronnie. So I've copied that. I'm going to go into my, now here's an important and cool point. All the changes that I'm making, I actually have, I'm going to show you, I've got the database in both places, but I don't need to make any changes to the database on my production server. So I've got my development server on my left, this is Jupyter. I've got my production server, which is my laptop, on the right. All the changes that I'm going to make in these steps only need to happen to the development file, not to the production file. And the reason that's important is because it means that you can start using 360Deploy with solutions that you've already deployed, potentially even to multiple customers, without needing to go through to your existing production servers and make any changes. You're only going to need to make the changes on your one development copy. I think I already did this, but it doesn't hurt it to do it multiple times. So again, I put that on my clipboard. I go to only my development version, and I paste this folder that contains some scripts here. So that's done. My next step is step 4, copy and paste the script steps into the 360Deploy import worker script in each file. So I copy the script steps. They've been placed on the clipboard, and these are customized to the particular solution that I'm working with. So I go to this import worker. This is empty. I'm just going to delete this comment at the top and paste this in. And this script is customized. So for instance, here you can see an example of where we're specifying a particular field from the solution in the script. So this is, I'm just showing you that to show you that it's not a generic boilerplate script. It's actually generated by reading the contents of all the fields and everything. And I've got my import record script here, which has all the fields and everything that I need in it. So that is the import script. Those are all the changes that need to be made. There's actually a 5th step, which we haven't documented yet, which is the passwords. So we went round and round on how to make it so that you wouldn't have to keep entering your password over and over again on these files. And what we came up with, which I think was Sam came up with this idea, which I think was a really good one, is that if you change your username and password in this 360Deploy file to the same username and password that you're using for running the import, then everything will just automatically open and you'll never be prompted for a password. So step 5 would be to go into security and make sure that you have an account in here matching an account in your solution file with the same username and password, and then everything will just automatically open. And once you create that account, you would close this file, reopen it with that account, and then you won't be prompted for passwords at any point during the process. I've already done that. My username and password for all this stuff is just admin for this and these. So that's it. And so now I'm going to go ahead and actually run the process right here. So deploy dev files to production server. Oh, I need to close.
Yes, you said to ask you, to stop you and ask you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is Ronnie. Does that account have to be full access?
It does not have to be full access. It needs to have full record access, so it could be a data entry account.
Okay.
As long as it has permissions to be able to run an import, then you should be good.
Okay, so we can use external authentication, maybe.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can definitely use external authentication.
Thanks.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this. I'm going to hit OK. And this is honestly a pretty boring thing because my files are pretty much identical right now. This usually takes, for a single file, usually takes between 20 and 30 seconds. it is worth noting, as long as I'm waiting for this, it is worth noting that this is actually importing all the records from one into the other, which we don't have which means that if you've got a 1 million record database, it's still going to take an hour or a few hours for this to happen. We're not, we don't have any magic way at this point of skipping the actual import process. So it will still actually do that, but you don't need to babysit it, and it will put the file up on the server when it's done. So that's finished, and it's really hard to tell that anything really happened. I'm going to open this file here, and the only way that I can really even show you that anything happened is by looking at the scripts folder, and these scripts that I added to my development file are now in my production file. So that was the process right there. That's a really boring demo, so let me do something slightly more interesting here. I am going to open up my development file again. And now that you've seen what it looks like with no changes, let's go ahead and make a few changes and then do this again. So I'm a noted horrible graphic designer, so I'm really not going to try to do anything pretty in here. In fact, I'm just going to stink this up by putting horribly colored circles on my layout. I kind of actually take a perverse amount of pride in being a horrible graphic designer, so I might just make this my real thing for my real demo. So now, let's do a few more things. Let's add a few scripts here. And it's going to set a field to something, and do love the keyboard shortcuts in the new script manager. Okay, so now I've, what I'm not doing, and I'm intentionally avoiding doing it because I want to show this afterwards, I'm not changing the schema. I'm not going in and changing anything about the tables. All of my changes at this point are layout and scripting only. And that's important, as you'll see when I get to the next part. So I've changed the layout for the worse. I've added some exciting scripts, and so I'm going to run my process again. I do need to have the files closed before I do this. So let's do that. And this time, I don't need to do any of these steps. They're already done. My script is going to be the same. Everything is the same. So there's nothing for me to do here except for to click this button again, and it goes. And so this will be your normal process if you're using this tool whenever you've made changes that are layout and scripting only type of changes. There's nothing to do to the development file. You simply open this file up and you run it, and it brings everything over.
Now, presumably, you could have different records in this file for different deployments
Yeah,
that you wanted to update.
I should have demoed that. I'll make sure to do that in the next one. But yes, absolutely. So now, we can see, as we would reasonably expect, that my layout has been uglified and my scripts are all here. So this is so all of my changes now are in the development file. So let's go ahead and do what Chris was just talking about. I'm going to create a bunch of new records. You know, our real deployment file would probably have, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of records in it. But for now, I'll just stick to 2 records in my development file and 10 records in my production file. But that raises an interesting point here, is that the serial numbers are now different. So my next serial number in my production file is 11. My next serial number in my production file is 3. And so that's one of the things you have to remember to do if you're manually doing this process, is if I simply saved an empty copy of my development file, and then I imported all the records from my production file, my next serial number would still be 3. So if I created another record in my production file, I would wind up with 2 record number 3s. So you always have to remember to write down whatever your next serial number was in your old file and manually go through on your development file and change that to each one so that they will continue in the same sequence that you're used to. That's the normal process. With 360 Deploy, that all happens automatically for you. So this time, I'm going to add some new fields.
Sorry, can I just jump in here for a second and ask, suppose your development file has 1 million records in it, just for sake of argument. Are you saving a clone in the background or deleting all records?
Yes, we are saving an empty clone, and the way we're doing that is we're calling the FMS admin command line tool, which has a nice little feature that will automatically save a clone for you. So we call FMS admin, that saves a backup copy and also automatically saves a clone. We actually just ignore the backup copy and pull that empty clone out. So we never have to save the clone ourselves. It's done for us by FileMaker Server.
Okay, so you could technically have 2 completely different data sets in the files, be testing with one, and then when you're ready to deploy, you don't even have to worry about getting rid of all of the data that you have in there. Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and do that just to make the point. So what I've done is I've added a couple new fields to our contact table. I've added 2 new tables here, new table and new table 2. Let's give them a few fields, A, B, C, and red, green, blue. And let's create some sample data in our, not our production file, but our development file. So this is record 3 in development file. So yes, I'm not going to bother cleaning up this development file. I'm not emptying anything out. It'll stay with all of my test data just exactly as it is on my development server, but behind the scenes we'll be generating an empty clone and using that for the import process. So we can have, you know, test data that's permanent and production data that's permanent, and during the deployment process all the production data will come into the empty development file. So now I've got 3 records here, I've got 10 records there. My next serial number on here is 4, and my next number on here should be 11. Good. And so I'm going to try and do my normal thing. Oh, I need to close these. Well, do I need to close them? Yes, I need to close them. Close, close, run. And are you sure? Yes. And what happens now, should happen now. Yes, this is exactly what I meant to do this. So what's happening is it says database structure has changed for the following files: context 360 deploy. Recopy the import worker script steps and paste them into the 360 deploy import worker scripts in your staging databases. We're working on changing the word there from staging to development. So every time you run this process, we look at all of the fields and tables in your file to see if anything has changed. You don't need to keep track of whether it's changed or not. If it has, we'll give you the message that you just saw, and all you need to do is step number 4 again. Copy these script steps, put them on your clipboard. We go into our import worker file. Again, these changes only need to happen on the development file. We don't need to go on to the real client server and make any changes. It's only on our development file that we're making these changes. I'm repasting a new step. If I were to look through here, you'd probably see, yeah, it's talking about if table is a new table 2. So notice that our script has now been modified to take into account these new tables that we've added. And it's a little harder to see, but our imports have also been modified to take into account the new fields that we've added. Save all those changes. While I'm at it, I mean, we've already seen me make this change, but just to visually make it super clear of what we're doing, I'm going to change my ugly green to an ugly red. So now I'm going to close that. I'm going to run this. Are you sure? It's going through and it's doing exactly what it did last time. The first thing it's doing is it's comparing the tables and fields that are actually in my development file to the tables and fields that are in my script. It's seeing that this time they match, So it's not going to give me that error that it gave me before, and it's going to go ahead and proceed with the actual deployment process. This one I have not seen before. Error code 409. Congratulations. You're the first people to see me demo this and run into a bug. Let's look up a 409 error. Curious what that is. Import order is invalid. I wonder, I've never actually tested adding new tables in a live demo. So I'm going to remove those new tables, and I will make sure that that works before we ship this, obviously. I'll stick to just adding new fields. And now I could run this, and it'll give me the message. I know it's already going to complain about them not matching, so I'll just preemptively go ahead and copy the script steps, repaste them in. And let's run that thing again.
So would it be possible to configure this to maybe have 2 copies of the file but with different names, so that you could have your development file on the same server and let your clients look at the development file and tell you if they like it, and then merge the 2 files together that way?
I will add that to our request, our feature request list.
Because I could see using it that way, where I would be developing something for a client on their server, getting their input as to the changes they want, and then when they like the changes, merging them into their deployed version.
That makes a lot of sense.
But having 2 different file names would facilitate that. Yeah.
I doubt we'll get that in version 1, but I think it's a great idea, and I will definitely talk to Sam about adding that in a future version.
Thanks.
That's done. I'm going to take a look here.
You would kind
So
of
there's
have
our
to
red
pair
circle.
up file names, wouldn't you? Like, here's the file name.
Yeah, we already have something like, exactly. We do something like that in MirrorSync already anyway, you know, where we have, we allow you to match up like table names to pair them up with different table names. So we could do something similar. That wouldn't be too bad.
Oh, nice.
Maybe we would have like a pop-up menu where you could select the corresponding name from the other server with the default choice of being the same. So here's our development server. So now notice that we've got the 10 records that used to be in our deployment file are still in our deployment file, but the changes that we made, our layout and our field changes that we made in our development file have been merged in. So our layout has been changed. If I look at our field definitions, here's our new field 1, our new field 2, and our last thing, if we go to our serial number, our next serial number, unlike our development file that we imported from, we've changed that next serial number to 11 so that we get a continuous sequence of numbers. So at this point, you know, obviously that's a glitch that needs to be fixed with adding new tables. But if we pretend that that glitch is fixed, you can see that this is a very, very simple process for taking a development version and putting it up onto the server. I want to show one more thing here, which is that this whole time that we've been doing this, I'm going to look in my FileMaker server folder. I'm going to go in my documents directory, and every single time we've been running this, it's been saving the production files in a separate folder in the documents directory with a timestamp. So here's the one that I just did, and if I look at this file, if I just open this file normally, this is the old file before we ran the import. It still has the green thing, doesn't have my new field names, and so you're never, even if this whole process went catastrophically wrong for some reason, you always have the assurance that your old production file is intact. With, we don't make any changes to it at all. That's one of the reasons that we pause it on the database, on the servers, because we can't accidentally make changes to it. And so you're always going to, and they're timestamped. So this is the one that we just did at 6:46. Here's the one that we did at 6:37. Here's the one that we did at 6:34. Here's the one that I did for practice beforehand at 5:50. So we've got a history of every single time we've done that. Not only is that nice from a safety standpoint of knowing that 360 Deploy is not going to mangle your live file, it's really nice from a historical standpoint. If you deploy a new version and then the client starts calling you saying, hey, something that you did is broken and I'm pretty sure it was working in the old version, the nice thing is you've got a copy of the old version with all the data intact. You can just open it up and you can see how it used to work, with that data from the old version. Obviously, disk space could get to be an issue. So if you're working with large databases, you would want to manually clean this up at some point, if disk space is an issue.
And you could even roll back to a previous version, right? By putting that on your development server and then deploying it.
Yeah, if somebody said, if it was just a disaster and something that you did was totally broken, yeah, the file's right there. You don't even need to go, you don't even need to say, let me go to the last hourly backup. I mean, it's 6:51 right now. If I did this process right now and it was bad, then I would hate to say, well, let me go back to 6 o'clock and you might lose, 45 minutes worth of data. The nice thing is it happens at the moment that we run this deployment. So you've got a perfect snapshot of what it was just before you did the import. So you've got a very easy ability to just take this database here and put it back into your databases folder and roll back to the version that you had before.
And not lose any data that's been entered in production. So,
right,
nice.
Right.
That would be a nice automated process, a rollback process.
Yeah, to have a rollback?
Yeah.
I'll put that on the list.
Yeah, I mean, in conjunction with, having different file names on the same server, if you could just say, I need to roll back, and it pulled you up a list of, here's all the rollouts you've done. Which one do you want to roll back to?
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually imagining that the client would wait 45 minutes before they say, oh my God, it doesn't work, and we've got 45 minutes of new data. So that rollback would actually be take the previous version and deploy it on top of the new version, so you're back to where you were 45 minutes ago.
My clients like.
Yeah, well, you could actually. I think maybe if I interpreted what you were just saying, yeah, you could actually use this to import the data from the new broken version into the old working version, so you wouldn't lose those 45 minutes worth of changes.
Right.
Exactly.
You just need to change the scripts, correct?
Yeah. You would just take the new version, put it onto your development server, and then rerun the process, and then take the old version, put it on the. I'm sorry, no, I've got it backwards. Keep the new version that's broken on the production server, take the old backup, put the old backup as your development file, and then rerun this process, and it will take the structure of the old file that didn't have the bugs or problems and integrate it with all the new data that has their last 45 minutes worth of changes. Yeah, great idea.
I was gonna comment that Karen's customers are pretty quick. Our clients like to take about 45 days while they gripe about it and don't tell anybody who can do anything about it. And then, oh, by the way, you made that change a month and a half ago, and I've been working around it. Like, thanks, guys.
Well, the worst is then you have to remember what you were thinking a month and a half ago when
No
you made
kidding. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I just can't make enough comments to future self. So, dear future self. Yeah.
And so all of this is happening on the server. It's closing the files. It's pausing them. It's doing the import from the paused file into the empty clone. Then it closes that old file on the server, moves it to the backup folder I just showed you, renames the new file to what the old file used to be, and opens it back up on the server. So you don't need to do any server-side manipulation of taking the files down, putting the files up. opening anything, closing anything, renaming anything. That's all done behind the scenes as part of this process. So it really is pretty much, either a one-button deployment if you have not made any field changes, or like a 4-button deployment if you have, by redoing step 4, copying, script maker, paste, and then, so that's 360 Deploy in a nutshell. I'd love to hear questions you guys have or suggestions or anything.
I have a question. For one client that has many developers, they're using that new feature where you're limiting what each developer can access, etc. So have you made sure you can work within those parameters so that, it might only have limited access?
I didn't even know about that feature, and I'm taking the certification exam on Saturday. So can you educate me and tell me what you're talking about?
I think I'll let Ronnie field that.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Karen?
You know how in setting up a FileMaker server, you can kind of limit the access developers have so that they can't muck with each other's files? I'm thinking of like Christie's, where they have like 6 or 7 developers in different groups using the same server.
Oh, you're talking about admin groups.
Admin groups.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I do understand what you're asking about then. The answer to that question is that, and I don't know if this is intentional on FileMaker's part or if it's a bug, but the sub-admin account passwords will not work with the FMS admin command line tool. And we use the FMS admin command line tool to do all of our file manipulations on the server. So the short answer is sub-admin accounts will not work, and that's not a limitation of 360 Deploy. That is a limitation of the FMS admin command. Like I said, it may be intentional. FileMaker server may not have wanted people to be able to use FMS admin with sub-admin accounts. But you do need to have a full admin FileMaker server account in order to use this.
Good to know.
If that's a big deal for you, I would highly recommend filing a bug report with FileMaker and telling them that it's important for you, because I've asked for that before, but the more people they hear it from, the more likely they are to change it.
Well, I've never had a good reason to use the terminal commands except when there's something majorly wrong, and usually that's even standing in front of the server to fix things.
Right, right. I guess that's their assumption, is that a sub-admin person really has no business getting onto the command line of the box at all. But for an automated tool like ours that uses the command line behind the scenes, it would be really nice.
Yep.
I presume that this must kick everybody out of the production file, right? Does
Yes.
it handle that smoothly on its own, or do you have to make sure everybody's kicked out?
Nope. What it'll do is it's a several part process. The first thing it does is it closes the production files on the server with a message and a 2-minute warning saying, I don't remember exactly the wording of the message, but it'll give them a 2-minute warning. It'll close it out. After the files are all closed, then it reopens the file and pauses it. We do that to make sure that all the users have gotten a chance to close it, because if we simply just paused it, then somebody might be in the middle of editing a record and they're just going to get a beach ball. So we want it to kind of do a close first to kind of let everybody know that this is happening. And so it will give everybody a 2-minute grace period to get out, close it, and then reopen it, pause it so that nobody can make any changes while we're doing the import. That's another reason to pause it. And then we run the import while it's paused. So the whole import process happens with the database paused on the server. It is possible that after somebody gets booted off the server, they might try to reopen that same file. And it would open for them, but it would be paused. So as soon as they try to make any change to it, they would get the beach ball.
Okay. Nice. And what about changes to field names or table names? Is that just to be avoided, like so many of us do anyway?
Yeah. We have no way of mapping those up.
Right, right. And if you delete a field from your development copy, it's obviously just going to be left off the import from the
right.
The
I don't think it would cause the import to fail, but yeah, you would lose the contents of that field in the new file.
All right, which is probably what you meant to do by deleting the field anyway. Yeah. You kind of saw that coming.
Wait, my data is all gone after I deleted the field.
Right? Who could have guessed, right? I'm going to ask, although I wouldn't even ask anybody else, but what about user accounts that have been added in the deployed file?
Those will not be imported.
Right.
Okay.
So I
I'm
assumed
glad
as
you asked
much,
that.
but
That's
I
something
thought
I
I'd
need to
throw it out
document.
there like a big fat dream, right? But
yeah,
especially if
and
you've
that's
got
another,
multiple customers that you're rolling this out for multiple customers, if they're not using external authentication, then presumably each of those files has their own usernames and passwords. And those
and the same thing really goes for value lists.
Value lists.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, like if you've got a value list that's hard-coded.
If you've got a custom value list that's in the production file but not in the development file. Yeah, that makes sense.
I never enable that option to be able to edit the value lists. You know, if I want my value list to be editable, I'm going to have a separate table for them. Yeah. But some people do use that feature, and if you use that feature, it's important to realize that it's one of the reasons not to use that feature is because the edits that they make are specific to that particular file in the production box. And when you import the data into your development file, you'll lose that customization to the value list.
And it's at least possible to move most, if not all, of those custom value lists into data.
Yes. Yeah, that's the right way to do it.
So that they're not part of the
schema. Save fines presumably as well, right?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Want to say that again?
I'm sorry. Yeah, save fines will also be lost as well.
Oh, are the save fines stored in the file itself?
Mm-hmm.
In the production file.
Yeah.
Those are stored in the file.
So anything in the shell, anything in the shell really is.
Yep.
We keep what's in the dev file.
Right. Anything that can't be imported, with the exception of the serial numbers. The serial numbers are the one thing that we actually can change because there is a script step for set next serial numbers. I remember I was so excited back in FileMaker 5.5 when they added that feature to set next serial numbers. That's pretty much how long it's been that I've been wanting to do something like this to automate this process. It's been a long time, so I'm happy.
We've actually moved our serial numbers into a table.
Yeah.
Just because of that, because we use UUIDs so much that when we do actually need a serial number, it's even easier to forget because it's like one in a dozen tables that might have one. Probably more
you
like
need to be real careful
tables.
about multi-user access to the file and being sure to lock the record when you increment the serial number.
Yeah, locking the record that has that and making sure. Yeah. So we work.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do that.
A little node, you know. Just said we'll never figure that out again. But still, occasionally you need them. So.
All right.
Well, what about adding a follow-on script? How hard would that be? It seems like it would be fairly straightforward with the structure that you have, where you're running a script anyway. Could you tag on a script to be performed at the end once this is the production file? Go ahead and run this thing.
Yeah, let's document how to add
because if I were just to stab in the dark, I'd say put it at the bottom of that script that you keep copying and pasting, right?
Right. I think that would work. I know that there's some callbacks that happen in that script. Obviously, you'd want it before the exit script. So yeah, I think putting it here. No, not here. This is the wrong script. This one, import worker.
I thought so. Okay. Yeah, and just basically don't overwrite that part when you update the.
Right.
But is that going to mess up your checker that checks to see whether this script is up to date?
No, it won't. The value is actually hard-coded in the script right here.
Okay.
So this is basically a hash of all the tables and fields in a thing.
Oh, okay.
And so we generate that hash, we store it. We're not actually truly looking at the contents of the script. We're just simply calling this particular action and getting that hash. So you could make changes to the script and it would not mess anything up. You would need to remake the changes anytime that you pasted it. And so I'd like to try to think of a way that we could potentially have a hook that you could customize without losing your changes every time.
Oh, that would be nice if it
But,
ran. If it just ran a subscript that's normally empty at the end.
yes,
And then you have a place like, add your follow-on steps here.
right. And you could just stick an else if thing of like, if table is this, then do this. If table is that, do that.
Right, right. I'm just thinking of, follow-on cleanup items and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
that
for
would
instance,
definitely.
in our security setup, we use FileMaker Security, but we do have a table of accounts. No passwords, just a table of account names and who do they actually belong to and what's their phone number, all that good stuff.
Right.
So even if we couldn't preserve those individual usernames, we could loop through those and create an account for them with a new password and like email out, there's been an update, here's your temporary password. So we could do follow-on stuff like that for
that would work great. Yeah.
Kind of one-off situations. Yeah. It's not as good as preserving the password, but I understand why that's a difficult problem.
And I'm just curious.
For everybody, FileMaker too.
Why not use external authentication?
I get asked that all the time. It's because most of our clients are like between 5 and 10 users, and they have enough trouble turning on their computer. So to ask them to set up a user account in external authentication is like, asking them to write C++. They just
don't use OAuth. So. We can use Google ID or Amazon ID.
Yeah,
if they're on 16.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to explore that more. That would be nice.
All right. Well, and I need to be more prepared for certification on Saturday.
So the test is out. I didn't get a notification that the test was out.
I didn't get a notification either. It was just fun talking to some people that heard about it.
Yeah, I was about to ask Jesse if maybe you were getting like an early test or something.
No, I think I've already talked to people who took the beta test a little bit ago, and when they but apparently no, the regular test is now out. You can sign up for it immediately.
Because we usually race down there on the day that the test is announced, but nobody announced.
Yeah. I used to do the beta test, but it was grueling. Just 4 hours.
Oof.
I was like, it's just not. On the one hand, it's nice that you don't have to pay for the test, but on the other hand, the cost of the test compared to the extra 3 hours that it takes to do it, I'm like, I'd be a lot better off getting those 3 hours back and paying for the test.
Wow.
Yeah. So 4 hours in those little testing cubes is a little much for me.
Wow. What is that? They test you on all the possible questions?
They put like 240 questions on the test.
Oof.
And it's a 4-hour test, and by the end of it, it's just like I'm just like a puddle in my chair. It's just like I cannot answer, I cannot click, I cannot do anything more.
I'm like that after the regular test, so good on you. And every single time I'm sitting and waiting for that screen to come up going, there's no way I passed this. And so far I haven't failed, but every single time I've been scared that I failed. Because that's
how we know we did a good job.
Yeah.
Thank you for the feedback.
I do my best to study the things that I know I missed. So I try to make sure my score goes up a little bit each time I take it because I shouldn't miss the same questions again. So hopefully I'll do well. I did well on the last one.
I always read the new in this version. Mm-hmm. And then my attitude each time has been, I'm just going to go down and challenge it. I'll probably fail, but at least I'll know what I need to work on. Like it's a $150 course, in what you don't know about FileMaker. Seems like every single time I pass it, often just barely, but I pass it and like, okay, I guess, well, I'm done, I'm surprised every time.
None of the other three I've beaten my score yet, so I'm still waiting for somebody to kick me off of the throne if you guys can hear me.
Jason has beat my score many times.
So. Jesse, they're drinking over there, remember, so don't expect them to be answering.
Pretty much the second they hit mute, they were like, we're out of here.
They have you on record saying it's okay for them to drink now. So
when you said that, I started taking up a collection for a beer run, so, we lost their attention.
anyways, back on topic. Jesse, I do want to say this is pretty impressive. For what it's worth, I know you still have some things to fix on it, but so far that's pretty impressive work there. I think that's,
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you.
Just worth saying, just bringing it up, and it's really amazing what it's doing. I do understand the need for it as well, and yeah, this is pretty cool.
Cool.
And to add to your feature set, if you want to do something, because I do know that there are some solutions out there where we're doing really long imports. Some notification to developer that it's done, because I can see myself doing import of 1 million records and walking away. Just it'd be awesome for it to send me an email or text message that it's done.
Yeah, that shouldn't be too hard.
But other than that, it's pretty cool, man.
All right, awesome. And I picture this being especially useful in like vertical market situations. I mean, one of the things that is neat about we plan on shipping this file completely unlocked, which means that you'll be able to take them to a layout that you've created and customized for your vertical market solutions for your customers that just has like a giant red button on it that says like upgrade to version 2 or whatever, and they should be able to click it, and since it's pulling from, you can actually host this on a centralized development server, like an EC2 instance in Virginia, for instance. You could put your development file in there. You could have 50 customers in every state in the union, and who knows, international as well. You send them this 360Deploy file with your customized button and instructions and maybe even licensing information or pricing or upgrade process or whatever, and they could do that themselves, click the button, it'll pull those files off of the centralized development server, and then just update their solution for them. So I see that being a potential, big use case for this tool.
Well, that reminds me, Jesse, I think you misunderstood my question earlier, although you ended up answering another one, so it didn't matter. But this 360Deploy file can have multiple records, right?
Oh, I see what you're asking now.
Yeah, yes. So like if I had, 15 different occurrences that I want to update from time to time, I could have 15 records here, all with the appropriate logins and all that good stuff already set up.
Yes. Now we do have, we have not finalized
the next time, that server number 3 needs to be updated or whatever.
Right. We have not finalized our pricing yet, and we probably will be different pricing for. I think what we have agreed on is that we're probably going to have, it's going to be $195 for updating one particular solution to one particular server. So, I think that's going to be our most common type of license for somebody who's an in-house developer who has kind of one thing that they work on all the time. We will probably have different pricing for if you want to deploy either multiple types of solutions or deploy to multiple servers. We haven't finalized how that'll work yet, but there probably will be a pricing difference. But from a technical standpoint, yeah, you're absolutely right. You'll just need to add new records here, and then you can go to the appropriate record and run the deployment process.
I'm a big fan of your ScriptMaster pricing model. Just want to say that was just perfect,
The best part about the ScriptMaster pricing part is all the money that it generates for our tech support staff.
Well, as I'm saying that, I'm smiling to myself because of how much money I've probably spent over the years having you write Groovy code.
Yeah. That's true too. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to have you create a new plugin for every time one of my crazy, my own crazy ideas or one of my clients' crazy ideas, I probably wouldn't have.
Well, I think
it generates some good work for you.
I think you guys are the genesis of our FTP plugin. I think FTP was because Jason kept calling me over and over again saying, hey, we really need an FTP plugin and none of the other ones will do what we want. And he called me enough times that finally I was like, all right, we'll do it. So,
just please stop calling. Yeah.
well, I think at least part of Scribe was a PDF plugin that we had.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I can't remember if it was me or Jason or us together.
You guys have been instrumental in a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, I thought actually at the beginning, Yeah, at the beginning of this this presentation, Jesse, I thought you were actually going to present the 360 solution of my own plugin deployment solution that I presented in this meeting a couple of months ago. I thought surely that was not that fast to come up with on your part. So.
That was really cool. I really liked that.
Thank you.
I'm glad I got a chance to see that.
Yeah, I was worried. I'm like, gosh, they've upstaged me already. Jeez.
I know we haven't really used up the time, but I feel like we've covered a lot. Does anybody have like any other questions or suggestions or anything? I mean, these are really good things. Thank you guys very much for what I've gotten so far. I'd love to get any other questions or suggestions, but I think I've showed everything I have.
Jesse, I've got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think you already mentioned this, but what happens if the field names are changed? Does it use FileMaker's internal ID to import the data, or does it use matching field names?
It doesn't use it. It will not import the non-matching field names. So it will break the process if you change the field names. We can't detect what the internal IDs are because one of our kind of guiding principles was we did not want you to have to make any changes or paste any scripts into your production files. So the only way for us to find the IDs of the fields in the production file would be to paste the scripts in there, and we didn't want to require that. So there is no way for us to know that field ID 50 used to be A and now it's B. So that would cause the process to, I don't actually know what would happen, but whatever happens, it's not what you would want. It's not going to import that field into nothing good will come of changing the field names.
Well, that could be resolved with that follow-on script that we were talking about, though. If you, instead of changing the name of it, created a new field and then had a follow-up script that said replace the contents of the new field with the contents of the old field. Right. So if you had a follow-on step, so let's say you wanted to change, phone num to phone number. Instead of changing it, you would create a new phone number and then have a follow-on to the routine that says go to the phone numbers table and replace the phone number field with the contents of phone num. The old field would still be there,
right?
But you'd have moved it into your new field.
What would work that is very low tech, but really not that complicated, especially if you've only got one deployment server, is if you simply change the field name in both places. If you change it to phone number on your development server and your production server, then you'd be fine.
Because it is using field name, right? So
yes, okay. It is matching them. It is assuming that the field will exist with the same name in the production file. So that wouldn't really be an ideal solution if you're a vertical market provider that's got 50 customers or 1,000 customers out there. But if you've got one server that you're deploying to, that would just be something that you say, anytime I'm changing the name of a table or a field, I just need to make that name change in both places.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a, I don't know, maybe another feature, there's no way, or is it possible for you guys to say, okay, give me a list of fields in this file and in this file and tell me, like, you're not going to get this data because you've changed the field name?
Again, that would require us to paste the script into the deployment file, and we don't want to require that. So there's really just no way for us to know until the import process is actually running. There's no way for us to know what the field names are in the production file.
Now that's something we can do as developers, though. I mean, that's something that we can do either outside or, as a before or after process to this. Because if you had such a script in both files, right, that would return a list of tables and fields, like using that the schema tables, right? You could even put a button somewhere here that says, in your 360 deploy file that says, go to each of these files and get, run the script that gets me back the fields and compare them.
Right.
So it seems like we can customize for more specific needs like that, right?
Yeah. That would be doable.
And is it possible to, let's say the standard import takes care of 99% of the cases, like is it possible to modify the import script or the worker script for one specific table?
Yes, the import script is definitely, you can directly modify it. Just remember that if you do directly modify it, you would need to redo that change if you pasted the scripts again. But that's really not an issue, again, if you only have one deployment server you're going to, because once you've done the import once with the customization, then it's probably irrelevant after that point. So yes, you could go through. I haven't actually tried this, but let's just see what it looks like.
Yeah, that script looks awfully readable.
Yeah, for us, it's suspiciously legible. We generally
Right? Who wrote
make
this?
Make it a point to let's see. That's the get hash. That's the do import. Here's our import record step. So we could potentially modify this, although that doesn't seem particularly useful. You know what? I might be wrong about the whole field names thing. Now that I'm looking at this, it looks like it's just gonna import them with the assumption that they are in the same position. Sam, my brother, wrote a lot of this. So
hey, Jess, I'm actually here. I got the time wrong on the meeting, but I showed up a little late.
Right. So Sam, it looks to me like this is set to go by last order. Does that mean that if somebody changed like the first field to first name, it would still work?
Yeah, I think if they change the field name, it'll work, but it'll fail the hash test.
But then you would just repaste the script and then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because it's still going to be, yeah. So yeah, I think I've probably been telling you guys the wrong thing this whole time. Yeah, if you were to rename a field, as long as it is still in the same, as long as you don't rename it by deleting it and creating a new one, you're going to be good because it's still going to be coming in the same order that it was in before, and it'll match the same order in the destination file.
Initially, we wanted to do matching field names, but we couldn't actually paste that in. It would, you know, there's no place in the XML to put that. It's some kind of hidden thing. So
right.
So that means name changes are okay, but deleting fields is not okay.
Because if you delete
fields on one side, it's not going to match up. The field order is not going to match.
I mean, if you delete it from the dev file, then it just won't exist anymore in there, and it'll import everything except the deleted stuff. But if
right, but wouldn't it throw off the order? Because if
wouldn't it shift all the indexes?
You have to repaste it. It would change the hash of the file. So it just wouldn't. It wouldn't run.
Like if you took job title out of the source file.
The dev file.
If you took job title and deleted it from the dev file,
then
you basically wind up with
that
website
field would go into job title,
right?
And group would go into website and so forth.
Well, the utility would change the hash of all the fields and tables, and then the utility would detect that.
After you change the hash, you would still just repaste it, and then on the repasted script, website would be index number 7 instead of number 8. Right?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
so we do include the field names.
I think that's common for this process, though. I don't think that's a totally unexpected caveat.
Yeah, so we'll need to experiment with that and see what happens in that case.
I know a lot of separation guys just like don't allow deleting any field ever. Like rename it old, but you just don't ever delete a field. That's it.
Right. And again, if that does turn out to be the case, it can still be solved the same low-tech way that I was saying before. If you delete job title in your development file, then also delete it in your production file, and then the indexes will match back up again.
Or modify the import order manually for just that one deployment, and then from there forward.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah.
So am I seeing this correctly, that basically after I pasted this script, if I wanted to specifically modify the contacts import, I could set up my own kind of dummy file, map up the fields whichever way I want, and save that, get rid of my dummy file, and leave the file path as a variable, and then load it from the production with whatever modified field order I put in there.
I think that sounds right. Does that sound right to you, Sam?
I am not sure. I think so.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, this is just a FileMaker script. Once we've pasted the script in, at that point, all the work that we're doing is simply file manipulation. It's close this file, save an empty copy, put it on the server, rename everything, put them all in the right place, open them all up, run the script. We don't really even know what the script does at that point. Close the files, you know, put everything in the right places and open them back up. So we honestly, we generate this script, but once we've generated it, we really don't know that much about what happens beyond that point. We generate it and then we trigger it. But you can do whatever you want in between the generation part and the triggering part.
Okay, no, it sounds like there's a lot of customization there. If you know, if someone needs to do that, they can go in there and do what they need to do.
Right. Right.
And your hash check is basically checking that the last pasted version matched.
Yes.
You
doesn't actually know what the contents of
afterwards. Right.
Right. It doesn't know really what the contents of the script are. It just knows that at the point in time at which we pasted it, this was a list of all your fields and tables. And so later, when we go to check it, we get an updated list of fields and tables. We retrieve the hash value just by calling it with a certain script parameter that will get us this value back. And as long as the script still returns the value we're expecting, we don't really have any way of knowing if other sections of the script were changed.
Okay. Well, that leaves us open for customizing it, so that's good.
Yeah,
so I can
definitely.
change 1 or 2 steps and then call you and say it broke. And then we can spend like several hours trying to find that change I forgot I made. Okay.
Be sure not to tell me that you changed anything until we spend a few hours on it.
That's the way I like to roll, Jesse. You know. But I bet your first step is, why don't you copy and repaste the script, Chris? I don't trust you.
Let me see you do it.
Right. I want to watch this.
Oh. we actually, you'd be surprised at some of the tech support calls that we get.
Not at all. For one, I get them, and for another, I've been on the other end of some of your nightmares, so, you know. I know it's not particularly the topic that we're here for, but if you're close to the end, as you said, do you have an example of the new plugin interface for, like, are you using it in here? Because a lot of us haven't seen it. We did a session about new in 16, but you know, none of us really had.
This is mostly using the old idiom, but the plugin is new, and you can see the same difference.
Yeah, I think
just how that looks when you use a plugin as a script step, you know.
So here, this plugin is really not designed to be called directly. We call the plugin within our deployment file, but just to show you this as an example, if I create a new script and we've got a script step called roll is our code. Our development name for this product was called rollout. We're now calling it 360Deploy. So that's why it says roll. So rollout list databases, and then you get this nice GUI, and you can specify, you know, your username and your password, just like you would any other FileMaker script step. And you can see that you get some nice, you can get checkboxes for Boolean values, you know, that you can just check on and off. So previously, the way I would have had to have done this, so I would have had to say set variable, result or something like that.
Or result, which I always set myself.
My favorite.
Depending on whether it is MEPTY. I've actually thought about making a custom function called isMepty, just so that when I'm typing, I don't have to fix it. I thought, how much my future self would hate me for that. This says it's mending. There's no way that works, you know?
Oh, that's awful.
Those
so you
letters
can
just
see
don't
that,
belong in that order. But
so this is how I would have had to have previously called this.
yeah, this is my world today. Yeah.
Right. And then from an error checking standpoint, if I want, let's just say I did this, and if I wanted a user to see an error, then I would need to say if result equals error, then show custom dialog, roll last error.
Or
And
as
then
I was reminded just yesterday, you would also need, well, depending on what you're running, you need a get script result or get last error.
Right, right.
Because you want to check that the plugin was actually there.
Yeah.
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 I lost several hours the other day trying to figure that out.
Yeah. The way I typically do that is
take into account that the plugin might not be there, so I was checking for error, and of course there was no plugin, so I didn't get error. I got a question mark.
I typically do that by checking the version function.
Yeah.
So I say if roll version equals question mark. It'll always return a question mark if it's not installed.
Sure.
You know.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense once I figured out that I had skipped that step. It took me a very long time to find that I had skipped that step.
Well, that gets a little interesting too if you check for the plugin on startup and it times out after 15 minutes or an hour or something like that.
Why would it time out?
If the user hasn't purchased it, you're just trying out the code.
Oh, well, I know that at least in our case of our plugins, calling the version function will always return immediately. It doesn't do any network anything. It'll always return the version, or it'll return a question mark if the plugin's not installed. So that's a very quick way to know immediately if the plugin's installed or not.
Yeah, so you would still want, what error would you get if you were to run step 1 there?
You would get it without the plugin installed?
Yeah, would you get a FileMaker error now?
I think you would get a function not found. No, wait.
Function is missing or something like that?
Function is missing. Honestly, I'm not sure the answer on that.
You know, if I wasn't so lazy, I could check this myself.
But the cool thing here is that this one script step, in addition to being just much more friendly from a user standpoint, does the same as these 5 lines of code before here. So, and it's much easier to read. You know,
right, so you can just check for get last error.
Right, right. If you wanted to, right, I can say get last, yeah, exactly. And you don't even need to check for the last error if the behavior that you want is to simply display a message to the user, because that's what's going to happen by default.
Right.
In fact, I could probably even show you that right now, because I'm pretty sure that this is going to give us an error because it doesn't have anything selected. So let's see what happens when I run this. Hostname must not be empty. So right there, without having to show a custom dialog or trap for errors or do anything special, just because of how they've changed the API in 16, you now get a nice friendly error message that is generated by our plugin. So it's even actually better than the FileMaker built-in stuff, because we can generate a custom error instead of just giving a code.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, you get a nice error message there, whereas previously, you know, we would have had to have done all of this stuff to show a custom dialog with the same message in it.
Hey, speaking of doing things better than FileMaker, in the options for your step 1 there, if you were to open that up, do you have control of hotkeys in there? Hotkeys in tab order? Sorry, in step 1 of your script there, those options.
Oh, these?
Yeah, like
this?
the gear options here.
Oh,
yeah.
This is just, no, well, this is just using the arrow keys. And I would assume that this works the same way as any built-in FileMaker script stat.
It's awful on Windows. I just want you to know that.
There's an easy solution for that.
Oh, yeah, no. All we have to do is abandon our OS.
Come
No,
to the light.
my beef I have with FileMaker is that they don't respect Windows conventions in those
Right.
Dialogues.
16 is getting a lot better, right? 16 looks a lot nicer in Windows.
They made a couple of improvements. Yeah, I've never used my mouse more than when FileMaker 14 came out.
Okay.
It's brutal on Windows. You do have arrow keys in some places, but that would be the only program on my Windows machine that uses arrows to get around like that.
Well, I invite you to join the shiny rainbow land of Mac OS.
Oh, that's where I started, Jesse. I'm an ex-Mac user. So,
okay.
Yeah, I was fighting traffic when I went over to the dark side. But,
All right.
Yeah. Now, if you do have control of those things, in all seriousness, it would be much appreciated by us dark side
I don't.
dwellers.
We provide actually an XML descriptor to FileMaker, telling it what our parameters and our data types are, but we don't actually have any control.
You don't have something like the ampersands that we have in dialogues and things like that?
Mm-mm.
Do you even know about that?
No. I don't know about the ampersands.
Yeah, when you're doing button names, custom menu names, etc., if you put an ampersand before a letter, that will be the hotkey on Windows.
I did not know that.
Yeah. In fact, you'll see ampersands in the standard custom messages.
Like this?
Yeah. So that would give you underscores, an underlined C, etc. It won't do it on. Wait a minute. That's strange. You shouldn't see the ampersands. Can I show my screen for a second?
Yeah. Yeah. What do I need to do?
Oh, nothing. I've got it. If we hold on, let me run this as slowly as possible because it's a demo. Okay.
Oh, now I had letters before my ampersands. Maybe that's why it was.
See the underscore here and here?
Okay.
So I can hit O for OK or C for cancel.
But can you control those? Could you make so that it's like A or B, or does it need to be like what I had is A ampersand?
Well, here, like for instance, I'll move the ampersand to the K and to the
Oh, I see. I see what
L.
you're saying.
Let's see.
But then what that should have done, in my case, is it should have just said.
On a Mac, it shouldn't even show. I've never seen it actually show on a Mac. But you have the same options in your custom menu items.
Hold on, let me see. On a Mac, yeah, I definitely see the ampersands. That's okay, as long as everyone's on
like
Windows,
you see
right?
the underscores up here? This is a custom menu set. Those underscores are all set by me, but they don't show on a Mac at all.
Okay.
But
I wonder why.
For a power user on a PC, hardly touches their mouse because you can, in every other program on a Windows machine, you can run the whole thing with Alt keys.
Right.
You know, you can go Alt G and get into the list. You know.
Cool.
And I actually haven't done that with most of them, but FileMaker does things like, this is my personal favorite, Alt S, they have Alt keys, but Alt-S selects the first one. Alt-S again, because they reuse the letter, will take you to the second one. But then if you hit the space bar, which should activate the highlighted button, you get the first specify. Like it's clunky, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I can see that.
like a half attempt. It's like somebody who just doesn't use a PC.
Right.
And yeah. Okay, I'm ranting. But if you as a plugin developer have that kind of control on your own little things, and I wonder if you do with like ampersands and things like that.
Well, there's a plugin developer meeting at DevCon, so I can ask Clay.
Yeah.
I can ask Clay if there's a way to do that.
Or if they could just, hire me or some other PC user.
Tell them how it needs to work.
Why this is important to us.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I run everything with those keys.
Sam is even more like you. Sam uses VI as his text editor of choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's baffling.
You can't even use a mouse if you want to. I haven't used VI in a while, actually.
I'm like, there's BB Edit, there's Text Wrangler, there's Sublime. Sam's like, I got VI, I'm good.
Right. Yeah, sometimes just using a mouse for some things, I just feel like I'm pawing at the screen like a caveman. Like, I know what I want. Let me just tell you.
I want that one.
Right.
Touch it.
But I said,
all right,
just begging for us dark side people.
I think it's the price you pay.
Yeah, that's it. Well, what is it? Something like 75% of FileMaker users are on PC.
Yeah, that's true.
But about 75% of the developers are on Mac.
I would say it's probably more like 90.
Probably, yeah. I know going to DevCon when everybody opens up their Mac and it's
probably very lonely.
Airbook, and then I open my ThinkPad and I feel the eyes of the whole room turn to me like, traitor,
And you're not even going this year, so I can't look for them as you.
Peer pressure. That's what's keeping me away right there.
Now we know why you're not going to DevCon.
That's it. When I bring out my ThinkPad, I expect like the Darth Vader theme, to start playing over the loudspeakers. We come
make that your startup sound.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, I couldn't get any more attention bringing it up. Anyway, no, I appreciate you showing that because I haven't had a chance to actually see that. And when we did our kind of FileMaker 16, let's look at the new features. Nobody had a new plugin installed yet, so
okay,
we couldn't actually do that.
Let's. I noticed that the session is being recorded. Is that something? Are you going to post that somewhere? Because
I sure am.
I'd like to go back and look at the recording and kind of see where I can make the demos a little bit better and maybe send that to some people that are interested.
I thought that, by the way, worked wonderfully for this. But here, this is. I'm going to post this in the chat here. This is where we put all our recordings and upcoming meetings and so forth.
Great.
So
great.
Here's this meeting and then recording.
Okay, so you'll post the recording right here?
Yeah, it usually takes a few days before I get it up there. But
okay.
Because I think it takes like practically all night to compile this thing and go to meeting. But
okay.
You know how that is, the longer meetings.
Yeah, on a PC, that makes sense.
Oh, just twist that knife, twist it.
I can't help it.
Right.
It just comes out.
Yeah, I remember being on the phone with you one time, and I started doing this, going through and trying to find a file, and I'm thinking to myself how wonderful this is, because I love it.
That's nice. That is
and
nice.
I remember you watching it going, I was just watching you thinking how awful that looks. How are you doing that? It's like, no, we just work different. That's all.
Yeah. No,
Whereas when you bring up that Mac Finder window that has like column after column after column, I just go, but where am I? I don't even know.
I kid because I care.
Yeah.
But no, this will be great if you can get the recording, because I'd love to go back and take a look at it. Thank you.
All right. Well, I just hijacked the meeting for a while. Any other questions, comments, etc., particularly about 360 Deploy, or just questions to ask the plugin guru in the room?
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, Frank.
Sorry, just see if I can just ask in terms of the plugin, and this is just my own curiosity. I assume it's the same function that you're calling, whether it's being done through the set variable script step or the native FileMaker script step?
Yeah, the code underlying it is the same in both cases. And there are a few cases where it's preferable to use the old style calculation thing. For instance, you saw like one of the checkbox there was SSL. What if you wanted that SSL checkbox to be dynamic based on like a user selection? You can't really dynamically tie the checkbox in that GUI to a field value. So that's a good example of where it would make more sense to use the old style convention of calling a set variable, and then all of those parameters can be specified dynamically. Another example is that
else if with different copies of the command.
You can do that if you're masochistic.
Yeah, or you know, if you're used to the FileMaker send mail script step.
Every possible permutation.
Yes. Actually, you saying that makes me wonder. I wonder if FileMaker will ever give us the reverse.
Sam, do you want to tell Chris about your great idea for being able to call scripts by ID?
Sure. Yeah, there's no way in FileMaker to call a script by its ID in a file. Right. And we kind of needed that for this thing. Sorry, you can't call it by
ID.
By ID. And we know the ID when we paste in the script, but then we can't necessarily call it. So one way to get around that would be to just, when we're generating the script XML, have a lot of else if, and you pass in a parameter of the ID you want to call, and then you have however many thousands of, what's the number, Jess?
I think it's probably 2 to the 16th power.
Else if.
And you just call you have a call to every single possible script by its ID, and then
my stomach just flipped over. That was.
We already get a lot of shit from the FileMaker engineering staff about our 30,000 line mirror sync script. So when I submitted a bug report to FileMaker saying that there's a maximum of 32,768 script steps, I think I got a little bit of confusion from the engineers, like, who the hell cares?
Right?
But, you know.
How do you find this out, per se? Oh.
So that we actually, did do experimentation. We figured it was a power of 2. We just didn't know which power of 2. So that's the answer. It's 2 to the 16th.
It would be nice if they'd give us, you know how, I'm trying to think how to verbalize this, but okay, so you can run one of your plugin steps with a script step or as a function.
Yes, and either way, they'll wind up calling the same
Wouldn't
code.
it be nice if you could run standard FileMaker script steps as a function?
Oh yeah, I mean, it would solve your email
for those
issue
same
that we were
reasons.
just talking
Like,
about.
you know, the send mail script step has a checkbox for SSL.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
and you know, all the combinations and permutations of send mail via FTP.
Basically, it would make it the equivalent of every single script step parameter could be specified dynamically.
Yeah.
And that is a nice thing about being able to do it both ways with the plugin functions. Another nice thing is that some of our plugin script steps, or some of our plugin functions, can take an unknown number of parameters. So, like for instance, you could specify an unlimited number of additional optional parameters to it, for instance. You can't do that through the GUI because there's no telling how many checkboxes or menus, whatever to put. So if you're calling one of those types of plugin functions that we have, then you would need to do that the old style calculation way. And then the last reason to continue to use the calculation function as opposed to script steps is that your file won't be compatible with anyone running 15 or older if you use the script steps. So if you want to use the plugin functions but still have them be backwards compatible with 15 and earlier, then you should stick to the calculation functions for now.
Right. Well, that's an exciting prospect if FileMaker would give us the other. I'm just fantasizing about running like the sort step and the import step.
Yes.
Instead of that.
Just look at what they gave us when they added the set field by name.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this would be an across the board thing. You know?
We threw a party when that script step came out.
Yes.
We invited people over.
Yeah. And we're planning the party for when they get rid of that god awful import GUI, the field mapping GUI. I actually sat with my finger on the mouse key for upwards of 10 minutes the other day because I was moving a field up the list and then I missed. And I had to go all the way back down to the bottom and find it again and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. It was dreadful. One of these monster tables that has like, you know, way too many fields in it. Long story.
Right.
But, oh man. Yeah, give me some type ahead here or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we are planning that party. Everybody's invited. Yeah.
The death of the import dialogue.
Yeah.
Jesse, I was going to throw out that I think we lost somewhere along the way here. We lost Eric Miller in the meeting, who mentioned he has a big vertical solution that his company does there. So I was really actually interested in him hearing what he had to say about it, because I know that they go to some pretty great lengths to roll out changes to their files, obviously. So he's probably got some interesting insight. So I'm sorry that he wasn't here to see the whole thing and then give us some feedback. But
I don't have his contact information. I would love it if you would send him an email and just say, hey,
yeah,
you know, Jesse and I would both be really interested in your ideas about whether this would be a good fit for a vertical market solution. Because I'd love to get that feedback.
He's also done some of his own automation, you know, not using plugins.
Right.
So it might be interesting to merge your ideas, you know, and see if maybe he's thinking of some things that just haven't come up for you or haven't come up.
And you know, honestly, a lot of the stuff that we've shown here could be just done pretty much by hand. Mm-hmm. The thing that would really be tricky to do is the server-side file manipulation. Mm-hmm. You know, where the actual import process can definitely be scripted. We've done it before. We had this, but you know, it takes a long time and it's tedious, and especially the serial number part is a pain in the ass. But the file manipulation in the server is what really turns it into kind of like a one-button operation. And,
well, you're also creating that script that you paste.
Well, but yes, clever. We are. But
you know, rather than you know the nightmare we were just talking about, right? Going through each and every import and setting them up over and over again.
Right. Okay. But yeah, that is something that could be done manually. The scripting part could be done without the plugin. The automated file manipulation would definitely require something beyond just the built-in FileMaker capabilities.
Right.
And
but I know Eric has a heck of a process, and you know some files devoted specifically to this, and you know making sure that all the steps get followed and so forth. But
yeah, please ask him. You know what he sees. Maybe there could very well be, you know, things that he needs it to do that we should really incorporate. And if that's the case, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I suspect something came up because he left pretty abruptly, and he would usually say bye. So I expect something came up. So
he's not even the one whose kid hit his head playing outside.
No, that's just a normal night.
He's fine. He's fine.
Was there any blood, Jason?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Alright.
Yeah, trampolines should be illegal, but we have one anyway.
Carry on.
Nice.
Oh. Well, it's coming up on 8 o'clock. I think
Yeah, I think so.
this is wound up being a lot more to talk about than I had planned.
Yeah, it was great meeting. Anybody else going once, going twice? Or is everybody ready to close it up for the night? Karen, Frank?
Thank you, everybody.
We're good.
It
All
was
right.
very interesting presentation. I liked it.
Awesome.
We
Thanks,
have
Jen.
tentatively scheduled for next month. Jason was going to do a deep dive into the card windows and tips and tricks, and basically kicking the tires on that. When we did our FileMaker 16 kick the tires, I think the card windows were a pretty hot topic for conversation and something we wanted to get into a little deeper. So Jason has volunteered to lead a conversation about that next month. So just a little heads up, but we'll announce and send out an email blast. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody. You guys have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you very
All right.
much, Jesse. That was great.
Thank you, Jesse.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.